Hello, friends. My name is Timothy Basil Ering. I'm an author and illustrator for the great, fantastic, wondrous Candlewick Press. And my latest, fresh and hot off the press, is the Almost Fearless Hamilton Squidlegger. The earliest memory I have of writing a story or creating art, well, the first thing that comes to my mind is a poem book that I worked on in, I think, 4th grade. And it was an assignment, we learned all about poems, haiku and couplets and triplets and all these different forms of poetry, and we had to put together a book. And the best part was our teachers encouraged us to do little drawings for the poems. And I loved going home, working on that homework, and neatly writing out my little poems and limericks and putting a little magic marker drawing with them. So that was kind of the first, and I don't know if it was the first, but it's a memory I have, and I talk about it when I visit schools, and my mother had saved that, so it's kind of this thing that I've had. And it also, it came up later in my life where John Sheska, might be getting off track. He came up with Guys Write for Guys Read, and he asked us to gather up something we did when we were kids, and if we're illustrators, to re-illustrate how we would illustrate it now. So that poem book is what I found in this little box my mom had saved for me. So that's the first memory that comes to my mind. One thing that comes to mind that I'm proud of in the making of this book, and there's a lot of the things that I'm very proud of this book, the story, the meaning, and everything. But one thing that comes to mind is way back a couple of years ago at the National Book Festival in Washington. I was doing an art demonstration in the Corcoran Galleries, down beneath the Corcoran Galleries. It has little art making rooms. And so there was a few of us illustrators doing little 20-minute demos. So I had a bunch of paint and a bunch of drawing materials, and I want to show the process of how I get started. I like to paint messy and work fast and make mistakes. And one of the sessions, Karen Lotz came in with the next group, and I happened to make this frog. It just was a random image, and it was a frog. And later on that night, I think it was dinner or something, we were with a group of people, and Karen had said, "I really like that frog. I could see him in one of your future stories. He was kind of funny." She made a comment about the frog. So right there and then, I just kind of made up my mind that my next book, I will have that frog in the book. The only problem was I didn't have a story. So I had this image of a frog, but I needed a story. And the next thing I guess I'm proud of is that my sons inspired the story for that frog. So Hamilton Squidlegger, this little frog, is kind of a metaphor for my two little guys who can sword fight anything in the yard, be it a log that's a frackensnapper or a rose bush that's a skelecragons. Who knows? We make up names for all these creatures. But when it comes to bedtime, they have a hard time staying in their own bed. So thus the story was developed, and now I'm proud that it is finally released. The perfect reader for this book needs to be animated and silly. And a parent, if a parent's going to read to children, that might have the problem that a lot of us parents have of a child having a little bit of a tough time to stay in their own bed. And maybe the reader is a child that kind of knows that they have a problem staying in their own bed, or maybe they have little creatures that they think are monsters that are going to be evil. But we want those little guys to know that you can make friends with monsters, and they are silly, and they do want to play. That's why they come to us in our dreams. One of the best pieces of advice that comes right off the top of my head was actually advice not given directly to me, but when I learned of a painter when I was in art school, a New York painter, his name is Jack Levine, and he would say, paint fast, make mistakes. And it just hit home for me perfectly. And it's the way that I work. I paint fast, I make a lot of mistakes, and there really are no mistakes because you can fix anything. And to me, when you start fixing mistakes, it just creates more layers of wonderful information. So it's a huge part of the process in which I paint and actually write. And I live by it all the time. I have so many wonderful responses that have literally like brought tears to my eyes. I get glassy-eyed when I do school events. I've talked to kids from kindergarten to college, and there's always some just absolute wonderful responses throughout all these years. But just recently, I did a presentation at a school, and I think he was about a second grader, walked up to me. He had so much excitement in his eyes, and he looked at me, and with all the commotion of high-fiving and parents thanking and teachers, he looked at me, I paid attention to him, I looked down at him, and I said, "What is it?" And he said, "You have just inspired me to become a writer and an illustrator." And my eyes turned glassy, and I gave him the hugest hug. I said, "You go for it, you work hard, and don't give up. Just keep going, never give up." So that was awesome. Well, I got an email, and it said, "Greetings from Burma." And I almost deleted the email thinking like this is just I don't know what kind of an email this is. It's just some fake whatever. So I am thanking my lucky stars that I didn't delete that, obviously, because this was an invitation to speak at an international school in Yangon, Myanmar. And so, to make a long story short, I accepted the invitation, and soon I was sending things to the embassy to get this trip all in order. And after I think it was a 26, 28, 29-hour flight, I was landing in Burma. And I've been to some really cool countries in my life, and this one was like time stood still, and it was amazing. So, one of the strangest, or did you say weirdest, I don't know, objects in my studio, along with dried bones and this, that, and the other thing, and fish tails and photographs. I have a real monkey skull necklace that was used in some kind of ceremony, and I was in this little marketplace way, way deep back country, and I had to have that monkey skull necklace, and I was asking the person that was selling it if this was for good ceremonies or evil or bad, and we could not understand each other. So I just kept saying, good, or bad. And so finally he got what I was saying. He's like, good, oh, good, yeah, good. Because I didn't want to be traveling on a plane and have that Greg Brady thing, you know, like the Brady Bunch when he got the little little totem pole thing. Anyway, it's been good. Everything's good. So that's kind of a strange object I have in my studio.